Welcome to episode 6 of The Spill on Women's Health Plus. In part 1 of episode 6, we'll be talking to 2 brave breast cancer survivors who will be sharing with us their stories of survival. This episode was sponsored by Nature's Discount Dominica, and we are so happy for their support. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of The Spill.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
It is a very important discussion that we're going to have today, and I am so pleased that you were able to come here to share your stories. Of course, it is October and it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And so we want to get into the stories of women who have had to go through this condition. So I want to know from both of you all about finding out about breast cancer. What was that like for you, and how did you find out?
For me, it was, I found out in 2019.
Okay,
I was a regular gym person, go to the gym twice a day. And January, just bathing, taking a bath, I felt a lump. And the first thing that went to my mind was breast cancer. The only reason I thought about it because my mother died of cancer as well. So I didn't waste no time. The next day, like a few days after, I went to see my doctor, who immediately examined me, and he found another lump. So then I went to the hospital and did a biopsy, and that's when I found out.
Okay. So
I think the hardest part was waiting for the news from the biopsy to know exactly what was going on. And I think that small period was one of the, I don't even know how to explain it, because so many things run through your mind.
Right.
If that's what it is, what you're going to do, how you're going to cope with it, no. And then you start to go in denial. No, that's not it. It's like,
So you were thinking of the worst, but you were still thinking
that's not
what
it.
that
No.
is.
Kimmy, you have to put yourself under control. You don't have to be that. You're thinking of the worst scenario. And then actually finding out, like when doctors sitting with you, and they said, this is what you have. And I think most people, the first thing is like death, because from a lot of people, including my past, my mother, my aunts, I have family members who died of it.
Okay.
So that tend to kind of, I cried maybe for the first couple hours. And then, thankfully, start to think of what's the next plan, what you're going to do.
So you started to think ahead.
Yes.
What's next? Chanel, what about you?
Well, actually, for me, I had a misdiagnosis.
Oh.
I had a lump. I felt a lump, and it was preventing me from sleeping for a while. I had gone to see a doctor about it. Because I had other medical conditions that could have caused the lumpiness of my breast, he kind of put it aside to that. And then I am the kind of person that's thinks the worst automatically from the get-go. So I have to see it to its logical end until I'm satisfied. So I went to do an ultrasound at St. Augustine Hospital because I was over in Trinidad at the time studying. So I got the ultrasound done and it was said that it was a fibroadenoma and I shouldn't worry about it or anything. It will go away on its own. When I returned home to Dominica though, and I started work, well, we had this big lull of Hurricane Erica, or not hurricanes, Tropical Storm Erica, and they were using grammar school for a shelter. So I said to my principal, you know what, miss? I have this lump, I'm just going to remove it while I have the opportunity, the chance to, before school starts. So she encouraged me to, and I went to do it. And when I had the surgery, the lumpectomy, and they sent it to biopsy, and it came back positive for cancer. So it was an absolute shock to me.
Wow.
Yes.
Just imagine.
I was totally thrown off guard. And the hardest part for me was having to tell my parents, or my mother and my grandmother in particular. And I remember when the doctor was saying the news, telling me the news, I started floating in my mind. I felt like I was not in the room anymore. I started hearing them afar off. And I started zooming in on having to tell my mother that and my grandmother that. And it was just not a good feeling. And I remember my auntie talking and talking and talking in my head until I started screaming. I just wanted her to hush because it was just too much. Yes.
So you almost had an out-of-body experience when they were when
Yes.
they were talking.
Certainly felt that way.
Wow. And then after that, so you have that diagnosis. And what is your primary concern? What is present in your mind the most after the days after the diagnosis? What is running through your mind primarily?
Well, again, for me, it was my grandmother and my mother and how they were going to react to it. Because for me, I felt like if I have the problem, I'm okay. But they not knowing how I'm feeling is a problem for me. So it was a lot of pressure. I was thinking of them.
So you're thinking about them more than thinking about
Right.
what was going to happen to you.
That's it.
Okay.
And
Okay.
also my mom is dependent on me because she is disabled. So I was thinking about who is going to take care of her needs because I was the only one in my family at the time with a stable job. So that was my primary concern. I was consumed with that thought for just weeks following diagnosis.
And how old were you?
I was 25.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yes. I was 25 at the time of my diagnosis.
wow. Yes, Kibi, what about you and your thoughts after the diagnosis?
After the diagnosis, I started thinking of like what I'm going to do. You know, I live with my brother. Only my mom died, and my father is elderly. Well, not so old, but. And what she said when she spoke about her parents, like letting her parents know, for me, I let my siblings and everybody else know. And something like they worried more. They worry more about you. You could actually see everybody crying. They literally break down. And that was one of the hardest things. And to one point I was saying like, I'm happy I'm the one who has it, you know?
Yeah.
I would prefer to bear it, do what I have to do, than to see them hurt or in pain or going through the same thing that I'm going through. And a lot of things pass through your mind. It's like, I do not have children, and I'm happy. My sisters have kids. You know, each and every one of them, they do have kids, and I'm happy that, I'm not saying I'm happy that I get it, but I was happy that I was the person chosen to.
Because you figure you don't have the children dependent on you.
No, exactly. And the next thing was thinking of, like, what's the next step? How we going to, like, what my life going to be like? You're thinking of all sorts of things, you know, and you have questions and you want answers right away.
Right.
That was something. It's like you want to know right away what stage, how far along it is, when are you going to remove it? Why did they remove it right now? You know, do I have to do chemo? Like and then you get advice from everybody that had to go through the experience, and it's just be so overwhelming. Some of them, they really scare you that you have to wonder, that's what I want to do?
Yes.
That is,
Even the medical professionals, though, they kind of rush you into treatment.
yeah, it's like nobody gives you a chance to really, like,
Think of it,
process it.
The
yes.
information.
Some of them right away tell you, no chemo, go natural, take marijuana. You know, everybody have their own prescription for you.
So the unsolicited medical advice was very prominent
Yes.
after your diagnosis.
And there was someone that was really scaring you. Some of them say, oh, and when she took it, she died after. It's like, you know, they kind of scare you as well.
I think at this stage we're all familiar with the unsolicited medical advice,
For sure.
particularly in the COVID pandemic. Yes, that is one of the features these days, that sort of advice. But I can imagine for you all having that type of information to process, plus dealing with all the family pressure, the family, you know, the feelings of your family about the diagnosis, and then having to think of your next steps for yourself. That is very overwhelming for all of that to be going on.
Yes, it is.
At the same time. So what was the next step then? The treatment step. What was that for you, Chanel? What was that?
For me, at the beginning, from the very day that I got diagnosed, I already asked the most prominent questions for me, as in, I asked my doctor, at what stage does he think it is, because I had to do further tests to get more information, but I wanted to know, based on what he has seen so far, what he thinks about it and stuff. And I'm a person, I like to organize everything. That's how I can function. It has to be organized in my head, and then I tick off everything. So I knew that I wanted to get rid of the problem immediately. While I'm waiting for more testing, I needed to get, just because I did a lumpectomy, so I needed to get rid of the rest, you know? So I did a segmentectomy. I chose not to remove my breast completely because of my age, and because I still had hopes that I would get better and mother a child and all of that. And I was wondering, like, how that would be like mothering a child with one breast. So those are all the things that were going through my mind. I know some people might say, what, that you studying and you just get diagnosis? No, I like to process things. So that was one of my questions in my head. And then I started chemotherapy. However, I had, like I said before, I have other medical conditions. So I have a brain tumor. So once I started chemotherapy, I started to have neurological symptoms. And we don't have a neurosurgeon or a neurologist in Dominica. So my oncologist decided to stop treatment. And he advised me to go to a country where I can get neurological support, because my problem is in the hypothalamus. Any treatment I get is going to affect the hypothalamus. So, and it's going to cause me not to be able to function normally. Like, I'm sure during your treatment you could still function, right?
Yes.
But for me, I was getting cognitive problems. I couldn't think clearly. I couldn't remember. I was feeling like I have, well, I don't know how I was feeling like I have Alzheimer's, but based on the way that I was feeling and I read up about it, I felt like it was Alzheimer's, the symptoms that I was having. Because at one point I was in Guadeloupe and I went to a brioche and I called my uncle in Dominica to come and pick me up. So I was,
You were totally
yes, I
disoriented.
was totally disoriented.
Okay.
Yeah,
So that is an additional complication on
right,
top of the treatment.
right. Yes, I had many treatments after that. I went through this period of time where I was told in Guadeloupe that I was cancer free and they're not going to treat me for cancer unless it returns. And then in 2017, it returned. So when it returned, I was like, what? I have to go through that all over again and lose my hair all over again. And then this time I did a complete mastectomy. And then I did 6 rounds of chemotherapy over 6 month period. And then I did 28 cycles of radiation. And that was not easy, but more the chemotherapy for me was not easy because during my treatment of chemotherapy, I had a heart attack. There were just countless things that was happening. And after my radiation, I was really tired. And up to now, sun on me doesn't agree. I get sucked, all my energy gets sucked away by the sun really quickly. I can just faint. You know, I am a little frail with the sun. After that, I returned to work and everything. I was okay. Then in 2019, it returned again. Yes, this is the third time now. And this time, it came back so bad, I was sick unto death. And at that time, my doctor asked me if I wanted to know how long I had. And I said to him, no, I don't want to know. He can keep that for himself because God is the only person that can tell me how long I have, and he cannot talk to me directly. So he can keep that information for himself. But he told me that I should get my affairs in order and all of that, you know. So I came home and I did just that. And like I said, I like to be in control of my situation. So I did what I had to do to mitigate this news. And then I got offered a trial job called Ibrance in Guadeloupe. So I took Ibrance with Faslodex, which is not chemotherapy, but it can have the same effects of chemotherapy on your body. It drops your neutrophils very low, but it's still easier for me to take a pill every day than to go and take the chemotherapy. Well, I have a pot.
So the experimental drug is what you finally resorted to, and that's why you're here.
Yes.
Today.
Yes, and a lot of other things that I did, obviously, right. But more prominently, yes, the experimental drug, Ibrance, Faslodex, Exgiva, because I had spread to my bones and my lymph nodes. So the Exgiva was for my bones, to strengthen my bones.
Okay. So you had a very, very strenuous battle, and you have, I am sure, continuing to battle.
Yes, I am.
And should continue to fight.
Yes.
So even when the doctor, gave you marching orders,
yes,
you continue to fight. Kimi, what was treatment like for you? What was your process?
Okay. What I did first, I had the breast removed.
Okay.
I decided that I didn't want no part. I just didn't want it on my body. Mm-hmm. And because of my history, I didn't want to be going back and forth with the same. So I asked him to remove it. I actually told the doctor, get the both of them out. I just want it all. And he said no, that he was only going to remove one. And he did remove one and the lymph nodes. Then when I got back my results, it was stage 2A. Mm-hmm. Yes, and I had to do chemo. I did 8 rounds of chemotherapy.
8 rounds?
Yes.
Okay.
During that process, I lose all my hair. I was bald head. Your fingers get black, your tongue, your feet. It was just, every time I think about it,
It was tough.
yes,
I
it
can
was.
see that on your
Yes,
face.
it
I can
was.
see you remembering.
But I fight everything. I still, to me, I never got sick. I never vomit. I never, most things people experience, I didn't really go through it.
That's good.
I never got like nauseated or none of that. I kind of practiced eating. I was on a strict diet and really strict. I did my little exercise. I did everything that I was told to do. I follow instructions because I'm that type of person. I like to stick to a plan.
Stick to a plan, okay.
Yes. So during that process with my bald head and everything, I even said I was going to bring you some pictures. I started looking. I had wigs and hair ties, but at one point I decided no, I was going to use my bald head as a style. It was all right. I cannot. After I did chemo, I didn't really get sick or. I think what affected me was the emotional part of it.
Okay.
You
And
know,
we should maybe talk about that.
It's the psychological part of it.
The psychological aspect of, from diagnosis and throughout treatment, what kind of impact does it have on you psychologically? And since you kind of indicated that was the difficult part,
Yeah,
let me get that from you.
Your family. A lot of people like tend to treat you like you're invalid. That's how I felt. Invalid. It's like your life is over. And to me, that's not it. You know, to me, it's just a season. This is just a period. You know, I'm not dead. I am still here. I can still walk. I can still make decisions.
Was it was it a pity thing, or was it?
It was I know for sure my family, like they were scared. They were like, people on a whole, other people like it's just a pity thing. Alas, or something, alas.
Right.
I wish, oh no. It's like, you know, the good thing, I must say that I had a good support system.
Okay.
I have friends that are like sisters, a few of them, and I don't know what I would have done without them.
So the support was important.
Mm-hmm. It's during that time you kind of I miss my mother the most. Because I don't have sisters here. And it's not easy to deal with men like your father, your brothers. There are certain things that they won't understand. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
But every time I talk about it, I get emotional.
Okay.
I had some friends that they were the ones actually holding my hands, taking care of me. Even when sometimes financially, I don't know what I would do. And it's like everything is taken care of. And it's only during this time you really get to know, you know, you feel the love and you feel exactly how much people mean to you. Like, that's when friends become family. And today, I'm so grateful for them.
So they essentially helped you to get through?
In every way possible.
Right.
Even when I reached a point where I had to see a counselor, you know, they were the ones who was with me, helped me. You make friends with people that you never knew. Like, it's a lot. For me, to me, at one point in my life, yes, I would have liked to have a child, maybe see what my child would look like and all of those things there. But my priorities change.
Right.
Everything changed. And the only thing I'm thinking about is surviving. I want to live. I have to live. And to me, it's like, you know what? I am going to get over it. And my life on a whole changed. I came closer to God. I put him first in everything. And every day I cannot stop thanking him. So even when I don't feel well, I will still say thank you.
And that's so important. And that is, I guess, a mind-changing or mind-altering experience.
Yes,
so
it
you
is.
start to perceive things so differently.
Things you thought that were important, they become like they don't really matter anymore.
Right.
I don't worry. My life is not over. And I say, cancer, you meet me here, you're going to leave me. And that's all I keep saying. I will do what I have to do and I'll keep working at it. And like she said before, it's a process. Because earlier this year, I had a hysterectomy. I removed my womb, I removed everything. And I'm working on getting the other breast removed. Because for me, it's hormonal, and because it's aggressive, yes, I did chemo, yes, but the chances of it, I don't want to go to do
You don't want it to
chemo
come
anymore.
back.
I don't want to go through that experience again, so I will do everything I can right now just to prevent it. And at the end of the day, I will still be here, and I will do no matter what. I am proud of who I am. I'm happy.
And that is the most important part. That is the most important part. You are still here.
I'm still
and
here.
you are proud of who you are, and you are
Yes,
happy.
and
That
I will
is the
keep
most
on
important
working.
part. That is the most important part. Chanel.
Well, I have a little, I totally concur with what she's saying. My experience was a little different in terms of I was living overseas. I moved my entire life to a new country, a new language, new sets of social systems. And I had no choice but to be present. And that was very difficult because I can tell somebody going for the treatment and having to live a normal life is the most strenuous experience you can ever have, especially if you do not have the support that you need.
So that was lacking for you.
For me, I wouldn't say that it was lacking so much so that I was in another country. So I only had, and I had other life matters going on. When I moved to Guadeloupe in 2017, well, I came back home and then I went back. So I kept going up and down. But my mother moved to Guadeloupe in 2016 because my mother also had health issues. And her health issues are grave. She has kidney problems. So she was now an additional stress for me in Guadeloupe. Because now I'm not only taking care of me or trying to figure out stuff for me, I'm also trying to figure out stuff for her. And for me, that was very hard because I keep saying to myself, I am young, I have a better fighting chance than her, you know? So, and then there's nobody to physically do it for her. So I found myself just living like I was not a sick person.
Okay.
And following routines like I was not a sick person at all. And you see that what she said about invalidity, how your family brand you as invalid, I had the total opposite in my family. Because I continued living life as normal as possible, they forgot that I was...
That you were dealing with your health condition.
Yes, they really forgot that I was sick.
And you seem to have been the support for your mother who had a health issue as well. Okay, so the roles were a bit switched up.
And then I felt myself constantly being sucked into this rabbit hole, thinking like, but they think, okay, man, why are they letting me do this? Why are they letting me do that? And then at the same time, I realizing, hey, nobody else is going to do it because they cannot. It's not because they don't want to.
But they cannot.
It's because they just cannot. They're not capable of doing it.
Okay.
You know? And for that reason, I think that saved me because I had a routine to follow and I followed that routine and my body started getting accustomed to being well. and to be well and to getting better because it's continuing to live a normal life and it has to catch up.
Okay.
But I will say that without support, I don't know how I would be. Like for me, it was my husband most of the time in Guadeloupe. And he would make me breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That was to me everything because I did not want to get up from my bed to go and make me breakfast or lunch or dinner. I didn't want to bathe. I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to lay down, play Candy Crush, and go and sleep. Write something when I think of it because I was struggling with my own self because I was getting lost. And there was somebody that was Chanel that used to like to write and read and create poetry and script writing and all of that. And this person was being lost. And then I had physical contributions to that loss. Like I couldn't think anymore like how I used to think. And I used to miss that. Okay. And when I have moments of clarity, I just want to write it down. I don't want to go and do no cooking.
So he took that up.
Yes.
And that was
everything.
Important. Yes. Right. So that leads me to the next part of our discussion. And Kimi, you spoke earlier about having a different perspective on what's important and some of the things we prioritized, before you would have prioritized before it changes. So I want to talk about the men a bit. And Chanel, you spoke about your husband. I want to talk about the men. How did the men in your lives react? I know I heard, Kimi, you talk about not being able to talk about those things with your grandfather and like you would have been able with your mother. But other men, friends, what was the reaction like, and what was their take on your new reality with breast cancer?
There's one in particular I have to talk about there. This guy he was talking to me all the time, like how always checking up on me, and I can remember clearly that when I got the lump and I went to the doctor. Literally, I stopped communicating with everybody on my phone because that's all I'm thinking about. He used to be checking on me and stuff like that. Then when I had my breast removed and I was at home recovering, I can never forget, he'd say, "How you doing? I haven't heard you for a while." And that was someone that used to talk to me like all the time. Mm-hmm. He used to ask me, "Can you go for a drink?" Stuff like that, And when I told him, well, I just came from the hospital, I had a mastectomy, had my breast removed, I got diagnosed, explained everything to him. He said, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Anyway, I hope you get better and I hope everything will work out for the best." And that was it. It ended right there. So, it's like, gone. He was gone, like he disappeared. It's like, no, this is where. Mm-hmm. So it's like, to me it was funny. It's like the minute you hear someone has, whatever they go through, then you feel like they'll be supportive, at least, try to, if they say they're truly your friend or whatever the case is. And a lot of men on a whole, it's like, the most they would do is say, "Okay, I wish you." Mm. There was one particular person that, I was seeing, and I think he helped me a lot. Okay. During chemo, I'd just finished chemo, but my head was bald still. And he actually took me on a trip. And he spoke to me, and he treated me like nothing was wrong with me. Mm-hmm. And this is like, it kind of like boosts your confidence. It made you feel, and he never once say, "You ugly," he's like talking to me. And if I say, I don't feel, "Come on, you have to do it," and I talk to you like a regular person. Right. He made me feel beautiful. He made me feel, yes, we still today, but it was just something I needed. And it really helped me.
I understand that.
Some of the other people is only now, like they see me today, mm-hmm. and they'll come and talk to me and, "How you've been doing?" It's like, yes, I'm okay about it. So what really was your aim? You know, you get to know people and really what they're about. Because when you really needed them, it's like
They disappeared.
they disappeared.
Yes.
I say to myself, maybe they picture me with no breasts.
And that is why, and we place a lot of importance on the breast too. And so that is why I was interested in getting the men's reaction, because that is something that they too may place a lot of importance on. So how do they react when they find out that something is wrong there?
And so
You
then
know?
they meet you, the first thing they do, they stare at your chest.
Yes.
It's like,
Yep. I experienced that.
you okay?
You're trying to figure
they
out.
don't want to ask you directly, but it's like they look at you and they try to figure out which one she wants.
Yep.
Chanel, what about you?
Well, I don't think my husband can identify with anything feminine. I don't think so. However, he knows how to be a supportive husband.
Okay.
So this is good. So I cannot have those conversations with him about how I'm feeling and if I'm in a mood. No, I don't think he will understand. However, the other man in my life understands.
Okay.
Like I have a very strong masculine set of friends. My best friend, one of my best friends, is a boy. Well, I had two boys that were my best friends. And one, when I got diagnosed, did not even come to say hello. I have never heard from him ever again since then.
Oh, wow.
He just could not deal with it. And I don't think, like, even up to now, that he realized that I'm still alive, he cannot bring himself to forgive himself for
what he did.
Yes. So he just stays away. And then there's this other one that really stepped up and started supporting how he could financially, because he realized that my husband had to be with me to take care of me in Guadeloupe. And my dad stepped up like he has never stepped up before in my life. I was so proud of him, and it meant a lot to me to see how my father stood by me. Because in my backstory, I did not see him doing that. So I was overjoyed and so thankful. Because I remember he even went away for a particular period of time to work, he went for something else, but he decided to stay and work to send money in Guadeloupe. And it was really expensive when you don't have an income.
I can imagine.
So he really stepped up and stepped out, and I love my father so much more for that. You know, and he carried me when my husband wasn't there to carry me, because my husband had to leave sometimes and go back to the States, work a little bit, come back. So, I mean, my dad.
He was a real.
And then my uncle. Both my uncles were supportive, but one uncle could be more supportive than the other because he had a medical background.
Okay.
You know, and I really appreciated him for that.
So I think both of you all saw both sides of the coin. Those who couldn't deal and literally abandoned, and those who stepped up in the face of your challenge with
For
your
me,
health.
it was my brothers.
Yes. So as we conclude, we are talking to women, and I want to just ask you all to just tell the women who may be listening something as it relates to your experience and dealing with breast cancer. Women who maybe are not even thinking that is a possibility. Young women, and both of you all are pretty young. So I just want you to your last words to women listening, women who maybe have never thought about breast cancer at all before, or who are oblivious to the possibility of it happening in younger ages. What would you say?
I would say, one, Every little thing matters. Every lump matters. Don't take any lump for granted. 2, I would say that early detection definitely saves lives, you know? And 3, I would say do not let anybody rush you into decisions that you would not otherwise make. The reason for that is everybody's story is different and everybody's situation is different. You cannot allow people to tailor, to give you a one-size-fits-all treatment plan. All right? And there are opportunities to get other opinions and to get other options for treatment. Never feel like pressured to remain in your own little space. Research, ask for help, seek out assistance. And 4thly, I would say, if you know somebody that is going through breast cancer or any cancer, support them in any way that you can. Because sometimes it's not just money that matters. Sometimes they just need a listening ear.
Support.
They just might need a ride to the hospital or an umbrella to walk on the street. So just be aware of that. And I want to encourage young women out there to continue to go and do yearly checkups and see that you are okay.
Okay, just adding to what she said, because everything she said, yes.
Yes.
I just want them to know that they are not alone.
Right.
And it's not the end of their life. And like she said, everybody have their own story. And everything has its own season. So don't be afraid to, whatever it is that you have to do, your life matter, and it's most important. So don't worry about the look, the bald head, no breasts, whatever could happen in your life. You have life, and believe in God. Have faith, believe in Him, and once you believe in Him and you trust Him, everything will be okay. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to ask a question. Don't be afraid to share your view, what you think or what you might want to find out about it. And you can always learn. Young people, the minute a lot of them, they worry about the outer look. Like, when I had to get my breast removed, a lot of young people said, how are you going to live without, And my hair is going to fall off, everything is for a season. Everything's for a short period of time. But you have to have faith and you have to believe in yourself and you have to want it. You have to want it. Because most times we tend to get depressed, and depression doesn't work with cancer. Stressing, it won't work with cancer. You have to want it for you. You have to believe that you can do it. Everybody have their own story. Everybody cancer is different. Everybody go through different experience. My experience will not be yours. Everybody have their own story. So you have to write your story. You have to make your story, and let's make it a good one. And you have to believe in yourself.
Amen. So, I think that's a very strong message. Ladies, it's the end of our interview, and I am so appreciative of how candidly you shared your experiences with me and with our audience. And I hope that some of the words that you shared resonate with the audience, and that people can maybe have a different perspective about cancer, dealing with cancer, breast cancer in particular, just from what you shared. So thank you so much for joining me today on The Spill, and I wish you the continued fighting spirit that I see in both of you all. You all are true warriors.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
You're welcome. thank you so much for joining us on this episode of The Spill. If you liked this episode, and I know you did, please make sure to share it so that your friends and family get a chance to weigh in on this important discussion that we're having in this month, October, Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Thank you so much to my guests who agreed to join me on The Spill and who agreed to share with us. And thank you to our sponsor, Nature's Discount Dominica, who continues to throw their support behind The Spill. Thank you so much. Remember, Women's Health Plus, like, share, subscribe.